Hey there, are you a songwriter and wondering if you should be registered with a PRO, a performing rights organization? In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes of the Rustic Songbird Podcast, episode number 30, where I interview Katie Mae Vogrin, who worked at one of the top PROs for 8 years. She worked at SESAC in Nashville, Tennessee, and has such great insight for artists and writers that are wanting to get their music heard, wanting to pitch it to artists or be the artist, wanting to get paid for their music. So there's so much good stuff coming up in this interview. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that I've created a checklist for how to prepare to record in a studio. So if you're thinking about recording your songs and putting them out there, this is an invaluable resource for how to get started and maybe save you some mistakes along the way and just save you time. So you can go to rusticsongbird.com/checklist or click the link in the description below to download how to prepare to record in a studio. All right, let's get into the interview. My guest on the show today is Katie Mae Vogrin, and she is going to talk with me all about performing rights organizations, PROs, what they are, what they do, and why you need one. So Katie Mae, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to get to know you a little better, hear more of your story, and to share with our listeners about publishing, because I feel like that's something that's confusing, that seems overwhelming. And so maybe we could simplify the process for the ones listening today who are maybe writing their own songs, but don't know how to set it up in publishing or what a performing rights organization even does. And so I know you've had a lot of experience with that. And I just want to give you a few minutes to share kind of your story of how you got into working with that side of the industry and what it was like for you.
Okay. Well, I never thought when I worked in the music business that I would ever work at a performing rights organization. You know, I went to Belmont and graduated from there, and I remember learning about them and the big dogs. You know, I worked at CSAC, but I remember the big dogs, the BMI, the ASCAP, and then CSAC. And so I kind of knew a little bit about it, but basically how I got into CSAC is I was looking for a new job in the music business and heard that there was a job opening in the creative department. And I really wanted to go into artist management and thought, well, you know, I'll just get my foot in the door there. And it opened a whole new world to a whole side of the business that I'd never experienced before. I'd always dealt with booking, artist management, things like that. But, publicity things. And so anyway, I started working at CSAC in the creative department in 2010 and worked there for about 7 or 8 years until I had my first baby, and then decided that's where God wanted me to be, was home with her. But so that's how I landed at CSAC, basically in the creative department, and learned tons. Like I said, a whole world new of the publishing and the songwriter side, because what a PRO does is that it represents the copyright for the songwriter, basically, and the publisher, to pay them for their works. That makes sense. So my job was fun because I got to sit down and talk to writers, new or established or seasoned in their craft or not, and talk to them and see if we wanted to sign them to CSAC. CSAC was it's a little different from ASCAP or BMI because you have to be invited to join CSAC. They're more about quality than quantity. And so I got to sit down there basically and interview people and get to hear their music and see if I heard something in them and sign them. So to make sure they get paid, because that's what everybody works hard for, is to earn a paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important to have things organized and to have people on your team like that to help you. So you're not the one trying to track everything down. You're the one creating the music, and then you've got the publishing company that's, you know, helping you get it out there and figuring out what to do when you have radio play or when you have songs that are being printed on a CD and being distributed. Like, what happens, you know?
Right.
And so I think you've probably seen the extremes. You've probably run the gamut of different artists and songwriters at all levels, from beginning songwriters, people that are aspiring songwriters, and then, you know, people that have made it their career and done this for a long time.
Right.
So I guess I want to go into like some of the stories, but just really quickly, you kind of mentioned that the big dogs are BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC. I'm an ASCAP writer just because I signed up with them when I first got started, and I created my publishing company name. And so I put that on all my CDs and I register my songs with them. That's pretty much all that I've done with it. I haven't gone to their conferences or gotten more involved, but just kind of the basics of, they're representing my songs and registered with them. But I've heard, I have friends and co-writers in all the different ones. And so I've heard good things from all of them. I think it's really important. I think it's really important to just pick one and run with it. I mean, there are pros and cons, I'm sure, for each one, but it can be kind of daunting for someone just getting started. So what were some of the things that you heard in those interviews from people that they're basically pitching themselves of why they're good enough to to be a part of CSAC? So what was that like?
Right. Well, let me first say that BMI and ASCAP, they're great companies too, and PROs. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those. And if you've already are established, with one of them, that's your first biggest step, is just getting signed up. I always suggest it to people that before that they get signed up, that they connect with somebody, that they, especially if they live in Nashville, that they can walk in and have a face and know who their rep is. I'm setting up your publishing company like you did. That's huge. So you have a name, so your works are protected. But what I always think it really boils down to is the relationship and the tools that anybody that works at a PRO, I mean, they have connections. Your artist rep, they've got connections to other publishers, to artist managers, to other co-writers, people that will connect you to what you need to use the tools. So the biggest thing I always told people, is get involved. You talked about the workshops, you talked about different things they offer, like get your face out there. This can go for anybody in the music business, but especially songwriting. If they are offering workshops, songwriter workshops, or like NSAI, has workshops, get out there and learn. Learn, write every day, and just utilize those resources, because they're going to work. I always tell people, I'm not going to work any harder than you work for me. Like if you're not I would have so many people that would work with and so much music thrown at me every day. I needed, you've got to follow up with those people and continue to send them your new music, especially because if you're writing every day and you've got new stuff, send it to your rep and say, hey, I want to have a meeting with you and just sit down and listen to this music. And I want to tell you what I'm going on. I want to tell you who I'm writing with. Because, Nashville, it is such a big city, but a small community, that you're always just one person away from them knowing, something that might be good, or a good writer that you could write with. Somehow, in my world, I kind of got with the young writers and the Christian writers when I was working, and I would sign a lot of young writers that were under 18, and now that was 4 or 5 years ago, and that's what I told them. I say, get out there and play, co-write, use your resources, and now just 3 or 4 years later, now I'm seeing them like starting to get record deals and starting to get signed. And one of them actually, Dylan Carmichael is coming to my county fair here where I live now, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're here at my county fair, I'm coming to see you. And so, but that's what he did. He used his resources. He went out and he just continued to hit the streets and, just work the scene.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I think community is a big part of it, because we need that encouragement. And sometimes we just need like somebody on the outside to like hear our situation. This is where I'm at. What's the next step?
Yeah.
And, encouraging people that are getting started that might not know, oh, I can just call up someone and ask a question, or, oh, I can actually have a face-to-face interview. Like that's a thing.
Right.
And so just to, have somebody in your corner that knows these answers to your questions,
Exactly.
is really, really helpful.
Exactly. It's almost like a continuing job interview. I think, it's like, because I never do well until I put a name with a face. Like I connect, it's like, names, but really sitting down and talking with somebody and knowing their story. And that's what songwriters are. They're people that write stories about their lives. So the biggest thing to know, on my end is like, I want to know who you are. I want to know where you came from, what you write about. Like, I need to know what kind of person that you click with, so I know what kind of co-writer to set you up with. And that's what PROs can do too. Every, creative department is probably a little different. I know some have like writers rooms that you can go in and you can co-write with other writers. You know, you could meet people while you're in there, but just, it comes down to rules in kindergarten. Be kind, know your neighbor, you know, and build that relationship with that person, because they are in their corner. They are in your corner to help you.
Yes, I love the opportunity to write in a writer's room. I think that's so so inspiring to think about all the songs that have been written there. And so that's something that I didn't know about the first few years I was songwriting. And then until some people that I was co-writing with invited me and they said, hey, let's call and just like block off a time in this writer's room. And then I got hooked. I was like, this is amazing. And so I've been to several different ones, and like the ones at ASCAP have a big chalkboard wall, and people can sign their name or write something about the song that they wrote in that room. And just to know that so much creative energy has been in that room, and people making music happen is really cool. And
just sitting there, you don't know what song was written in there. And there's usually like free cold sodas at CSAC. I always was stocking the fridge with sodas.
Yeah, CSAC is beautiful. Their building downtown has an amazing view. And you even have a place where you can walk outside and like see the city. I think that's really helpful to have like windows and lots of light. And
you need to create a space.
Inspiring, and not just sitting in the dark and, you know, by yourself. So, so I think co-writing in itself is so powerful because you have somebody to bounce ideas off. And then just blocking off that time is so important, of saying we're going to write during this time. I know that if I don't block it off, I'm just going to have little ideas. I might not finish the song. And so I make an appointment with myself or with somebody else to actually write it.
Yeah.
And so like those co-writing rooms have been so helpful for me, and just really fun experiences too.
Yeah, being committed to what you're saying about, you know, blocking off that time. It's just, I don't know if you're a mom, but like I'm a mom of two small girls. They're 18 months apart, and it's like I know. And
I have two as well. I have a 2-year-old and a newborn. Yeah.
Oh, you have a newborn.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
And so yeah, 2 kids. It's busy, and you know what, life happens. And if you're growing a family and you're trying to still make time for your music, you have to be intentional. So I totally get it.
I read about your blog. Sorry.
So I'm on the same page with you.
People. Yeah. You know, as a mom, if you don't block time off, especially as a mom, if you don't block time off for yourself, then you're not going to do it. And the thing I see that is the most successful in most writers is that they treat it as a full-time job or a part-time job if they can't, whatever their time allows. So whether it's a standing appointment every Wednesday or a standing appointment every Thursday, treating it, writing every day, you know, or making it a full-time job if you can, or doing it as often as you can, you know, between diapers and, you know.
Right. And sometimes, you know, I've found some great co-writers, like Julie Keltonic is a mutual friend of ours who connected us.
Yeah.
And we both have little ones right now. So we've done co-writes when one or both of us are pregnant, or one of us has a newborn and one of us is pregnant, or we both bring our babies. And so
she always impressed me when she'd come in the writer's rooms. There were several times she had one of the little ones where she had it strapped to him while she was nursing him, writing, and the co-writer wouldn't even know. I'm like, that is like superpower mom right there.
Definitely. And she is amazing. She writes amazing songs, and she's such a wonderful mom to her little kids. And so that has been such an inspiration to me, that you can do both. You can be a mom and you can make music, and you can still, you know, make time for things that you enjoy and that you love, and show them what it's like to go for your dreams.
Absolutely.
And, you know, do something that's going to impact the world and inspire people. And so she's a great example of that, of just like bringing the babies along and making that music, making that appointment happen.
Yeah. And her heart for the Lord, to me, is always, that's the most inspiring to me. That's what won me over with her, because her genuine heart, you know, for the Lord, and we just connected on such a spiritual level. There's just like, those are the kind of people I want in my corner too. You know, I mean, God just breathes on those opportunities, I feel too, for songwriters, maybe when they're getting discouraged or they're not getting their foot in the door of getting a song cut or whatever, that just really trusting that God is working behind the doors to place the certain people that need to be in your life to get you to where I know I would have never landed at CSAC or into that world if it wasn't like divine appointments that God put in my life, you know, because I was looking for a job, you know, it was during the recession, and I didn't have a job and I was substitute teaching and had lost my other job. And, he put those people right in place and, met a lot of great songwriters. It was the place that I needed to be till I had babies and just
Yeah.
decided to be home with them.
So it was an important season, and you were able to build relationships over those years of working at SESAC and, just being part of that community. You saw the behind the scenes of it. I think that's really, really cool to think about. What is something that was maybe a common thread between people that were successful as writers and who are, maybe pitching their songs, getting their songs out there? What are some of the common traits that you saw over and over in the people that were actually making it?
Mm-hmm. Besides what I said about them working, as a full-time job or like we just discussed, but like the people that would continue to work to have relationships with me or vice versa, or like with other people in the industry, people that were just out and about being seen, playing live shows. Like sometimes you could play a live show and there can only be like 3 or 4 people there. But you never know who that third or fourth person is. So playing out regularly, getting your name out there, because especially with social media, there's so much stuff out there where they'll show, you see somebody's playing, and when people are seeing that over and over again, it creates a buzz, but getting out there, not being shy, writing every day, co-writing, especially the thing I see of people that are maybe just getting into songwriting is meeting those other co-writers, especially maybe co-writers are that more like an A level and maybe not a B level, so that they can challenge themselves. I find that helps people be more successful, especially if they're not just writing country, if they're writing, pop or stuff for TV or film or whatever. Different people can help with that type of writing.
Yeah, you mentioned A and B writers. Can you explain that a little more, just real quickly? I don't know if we've covered that yet on the podcast.
Sure. Okay. And this is my definition. I don't know how official it is, but I would say, like an A writer is a seasoned writer. They have a publishing deal. They write with artists. They maybe had a cut, I would say B writers, they're writing with those people that have a publishing deal, but they don't have a publishing deal, but they're super close. Like they've got the craft, they're perfecting their craft. And then I would say like a C writer, somebody that's just, you got to start somewhere. They're just starting out. They're learning the business. They've had a couple co-writes, under their belt. But, you kind of really got to be honest with yourself too. If you're an A, B, or a C writer, if you're a C writer, don't be scared to like try to get with a B writer and write with a B, because then you're going to go be a B writer. And then once you're a B writer, you're going to hopefully grow into an A writer, and then I call them the masters. I would say the people that, have had like number one hits. So that's where I see the success. And it takes a long, long time. I mean, one of my best friend's husband, moved here. I talk like I still live there, moved to Nashville, with $500 in his pocket, a newborn, and, a new wife. And it took him 10 years before he got his first number one. But he hit the streets, he played out shows, he kept to it, and he continued those relationships, I think, are what it's all about, because you're growing with these other people. He grew with these people, and his first record deal, or not record deal, but his first publishing deal was with a very small publisher. And he was found at a writer's night that he almost didn't go to. Well, that publisher that signed him, eventually she ended up marrying a very big VP of a company. And now he signed a big company and has like 10 number ones under his belt. But it all grew from relationships. It's like, and when it grows like that, when you grow up with people in this industry, that's what I think makes it such a community, because you see them, as a C writer, B writer, and helping you grow, and all of a sudden they explode. And it's like, you're just so happy for them because you see how hard that they've worked. It's hard work, but that's kind of where I feel like a PRO comes in, because they are paying you for your performances, and you're doing all that hard work. You want to make sure you get paid for it at the end. Especially with at SESAC, they pay for all live performances. So every time you play out those live shows, you are, it might not be much here or there, but that adds up. So you're getting paid for it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that, of just like the hard work that it takes. And it could be years and years and writing lots and lots of songs, but you just never know which show it's going to be that you meet somebody that'll help you get to the next level, or which songwriting thing is going to be that hit song that you're writing. And so sometimes it's not what you expect, and it just really has to grow. And so I'm really glad that you covered that. And I'd love to talk about more of the nitty gritty of the technical stuff of the PRO, if you don't mind. We could cover that really quickly. Just because I know that it could be confusing for somebody just maybe comparing the different sites and the different ones. And we kind of mentioned that just having one is better than not. And there are pros and cons to each one. But can you talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of how a PRO actually collects the royalties for the songwriter?
Sure. So it depends on what kind of royalty that you are collecting. So there are TV film royalties. If you're, that's all done with sync licensing. If you have music played on TV or film, the TV stations provide SESAC with basically a cue sheet, I guess you could call it, and that's how it's tracked. And it will tell you how long the song was played, whether it was background music, and whether it was prime time. And that's kind of how they manage TV film. To make it short, is that we get reports and it's ran. Live performances, those are something that the writer is responsible for. Biggest thing, one problem that people do not do when they're signed to PRs, they do not get their songs registered, and they do not get their recordings registered. There's a whole department at SESAC that takes care of registering songs and registering the recording. Those are two separate things. But like, let's say you wrote a song and an artist sang it on a stage, that would be considered a live performance. Or you sang it down at like Third and Lindsley, let's say. Those songs would have to be registered. So you could go in and say, I sang at this venue. Because every venue that you play out, or every TV film station, those people pay a fee to SESAC to be able to use that music. That money goes back to pay you, the songwriter, for that work. So you want to utilize that and of what they're paying for. So live performances, TV, film, radio, there is on recordings are important to make sure you have done, because those have like a little code. If I remember, it's called USB-C code, and it tracks it. There's like a device that actually tracks how many times that recording is played on radio. And then, every time your song gets played on the radio, you get paid X amount of cents. And
I think I have seen the UPC code when you're registering your songs to be distributed, and that's how they track them. I've heard it called a digital thumbprint, because
digital thumbprint, yes.
Yeah, because it can be picked up, and they can tell, like, that's how you can use like the Shazam app or something and know what song is playing, is because it has that tracking.
Yes.
In it. Exactly. Technology is amazing.
Exactly. It wasn't coming to mind exactly what it was called. The people that handle that, I'm not tech savvy. I mean, obviously when I got on the call, I'm like, oh, my earbuds, I can't, I'm the creative person. So that stuff, it always took me a long, there was a lot of times that I had to sit down with those licensing people, or the tech people that did that, to really understand that. But yeah, every recording has a digital fingerprint that records it. And that was one thing that I really liked about SESAC. And that's kind of BMI. I might do it now, I'm not sure, but they, like I said, they have a machine that tracks it all, and they get reports, and they are able to take that and they can pay you monthly instead of waiting quarterly to pay you, which is nice, because that might just put enough gas in your car to get to your next gig, or to pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever, until things really start moving for you.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you for covering that while we're at it, because it does seem kind of overwhelming, where you're like, well, how exactly does that work? And, if you're not in it, daily, and you don't understand like that whole process, it's really helpful to have an organization like this that is, they've got your back, they're going to help you, and they can explain something if there is like a problem or a glitch, or if something's not being reported correctly, like you can check on it and they'll advocate for you. So
I'm really thankful that we do have those organizations, because nobody has time to track all of that themselves. You know, we need these groups to help us make that happen.
It's that admin stuff that creative people aren't always great at, you know, that they have to sit down because they want to be writing. You know, it's like when you're managing a business, you don't want to be in working, you want to be overseeing it. You know, you want to be overseeing your creativity and do that. So yeah, there are people on their side, and register. That's what I always say, your songs, make sure, or you won't get paid.
That's really helpful. And I'm like taking notes too. I'm going to be adding a lot of this information in the show notes for everybody. But to register your songs and to register your recordings, that's a really good tip, to know that there's two different things you need to register, so they can keep track of it and so you can get paid. So that's really helpful. I also wanted to talk to you. You've heard from lots of writers through your experience of people that are maybe the songwriter but not the artist. So they're not the one playing out, they're not the one recording their songs. So how have you seen writers who are just the songwriters maybe pitching their songs for other artists to sing, or pitching their songs to be used otherwise?
How do I see them? How do they see them working that?
Yeah, like what's good encouragement for someone who's just a writer but not the artist?
Oh, that's a hard one, because that is where a lot of people struggle, you know, about where to pitch and how to, especially if they don't have a publishing deal. My suggestion to people is always meet co-writers that have publishing deals or that write at publishing houses, because really it's the publisher's job to pitch those songs. I realize not everybody has a publishing deal, but that's like your big goal. Write with people that have publishing deals, so like you can get a publishing deal, maybe from the same writer. A lot of, you know, and it's hard too, because a lot of publishing companies don't take songs because of copyright issues, or they won't listen to them. So that's hard to answer. I always tell people not to get discouraged, you know, because there can be tons of no's before you get a yes. But it all goes back to that, I feel like, that relationship again, you know, where if you're just calling cold turkey or trying to pitch cold turkey, they're not going to know who you are. But let's say, you know, you're talking to your rep at your PRO, and, you know, they might know a publisher that publisher would trust to say, yeah, I'm going to make it worth my time to listen to what, you know, Katie Vogrin's sending over, because I trust her ear or whatever. So again, relationships and utilizing those resources. But I know that's a hard one, because so many writers struggle with that.
It is. And I wanted to hear your take on it, because I try to encourage people that are just getting started, who, you know, maybe don't want to be the artist. They don't think of themselves as like a great singer, or don't want to be on stages. So they're like, but I'm writing these songs, so where do they go? And so I encourage people to, you know, write with people that are musicians, that are artists, that are playing out, that are recording the songs. And you can be a co-writer for them, or like if you're not that great at the melody or the music part, maybe find somebody who is, but you're a great lyricist, and you can combine that and complement each other in their writing style. And so that's what I encourage people to do. And then as far as pitching, like I've always been the artist recording it or writing with other people that are recording their stuff. So it hasn't been a point where I'm trying to pitch it to another artist yet. So I was really interested in that kind of thing. So the publisher, you know, like you said, if you have a publishing deal, the publisher is the one pitching the songs.
Right.
So they would know like which artists are looking for songs for an album, and what theme they're doing, what kind of songs they want, what style.
Exactly. Yeah. Another tool, I just thought of this, that I used a lot. There was a pitch sheet that would be going around. It would say, you know, Carrie Underwood's looking for upbeat, energetic songs, or you know, so-and-so is looking for big ballads or love songs, you know, where, you know, people are looking to write, you know, if they sit down and co-write, they could come with a couple ideas, but they're like, hey man, we really want to get a cut with Luke Bryan or like Carrie Underwood. I mean, I'm talking like big, but like, let's even say new up and coming artists. So let's write a song that would you know, and they, and those pitch sheets sometimes say submit your songs to, you know, such and such, and you can submit that way. So that's another great tool. And, you know, it's again, it's like interviewing for a job that they could get hundreds of resumes, and they're just going to pick a couple songs, and that song could get put on hold. You don't know. But that's part of that working every day at it. It's just looking at those pitch sheets, seeing where those jobs openings are, per se.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate your time today just covering this, and hopefully it's made it a little simpler for somebody that hasn't even jumped into that arena yet and hasn't even, you know, signed up with a publishing company. Hopefully this makes it more manageable and doable and gives you some good tips for, you know, how to get started. And for our listeners, what encouragement would you have for those artists who are really wanting to do the work and take it to the next level?
My first thing that comes to mind is, if you are able to live in Nashville, move to Nashville, be where the buzz is, like get in the middle of it. If not, make trips and meet people and stay connected and write every day. It doesn't matter if it's 3 lines or just a melody, just write every day. Master your craft is what I like to say.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. What's the best way that people can connect with you online, and if they wanted to, you know, reach out? And thank you for being on the show.
Sure. Facebook. I'm not an Instagrammer. I'm not a big, but yeah, Facebook, Katie Mae Vogrin. You'll see my picture with my little sweet family at church on Easter morning.
That's wonderful. And I love that you're doing the mom life, but really appreciate you taking the time to kind of just share from your experience and hopefully help others that are coming into this industry and wanting to figure it out. So thank you so much for sharing today.
I hope to meet you in person and shake your hand or hug your neck next time I'm in town.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. I'm Lydia Walker from Rustic Songbird Podcast, and I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for even more episodes from the podcast coming soon right here. Don't miss it. Don't miss out. Subscribe now. All right. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Woo!